One. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Hello and a very warm welcome. It's 9 PM IST and we are coming to you live from the WION headquarters in Noida, India. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight focuses on China's latest provocation. China says India should not carry out development in Arunachal Pradesh. On Gravitas tonight, we tell you all about China's latest provocation. Here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We tell you about the latest boost for India's defense exports. India armed the Philippines with the BrahMos cruise missiles, and now the Philippines wants more. We get to the complete story. Do you know about the business of begging? You may know about Pakistan's history of begging for funds and exporting terror, but tonight we tell you about the country's history of exporting beggars. You do not want to miss this story. It's coming up shortly. How often do you laugh in a day? How would you react to a rule that asks you to laugh once a day? Would you laugh it off or take it seriously? We tell you why people in Japan are being asked to laugh through a laughter law. This is no laughing matter. It's coming up in just a bit. All this and more coming up. What is it that China does best? If you discount the Chinese counterfeits, it is provocation that China is infamous for. Be it harassing the Philippines at sea, bullying Vietnam, or passing baseless statements on India. Here's the latest. Beijing has said that India does not have the right to develop the area China calls South Tibet. And which area is that? The Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. China says India should not carry out development in Arunachal Pradesh. Why? Because China claims Arunachal Pradesh. As per Reuters, India is planning to spend $1 billion to expedite the construction of 12 hydropower stations. All of these will be in Arunachal Pradesh. In fact, the Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has reportedly approved $89.85 million in assistance to each hydropower project in northeastern India. Reuters is reporting, and I'm quoting here, the plans for the hydropower stations are expected to be announced in the 2024-2025 federal budget that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government will unveil, quote unquote. The government of India has not said anything yet, but that has not stopped the dragon from seeing red. China is calling this development work illegal and invalid. In fact, earlier this year, China published a list assigning invented names to 30 places in Arunachal Pradesh. India was not surprised. China has been routinely playing this name game since 2017. That was the first time a list was published with an attempt to rename 6 places of Arunachal Pradesh. In 2021, the second list was published. It mentioned 15 places. In 2023, the third list was published with 11 names. And the latest list came on the heels of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Arunachal Pradesh. He inaugurated the Sela Tunnel. This tunnel is built at an altitude of 13,000 feet. It is near the line of actual control. The tunnel provides all-weather connectivity to Tawang and other forward areas bordering China. Beijing protested this visit, and now it is protesting the news of power plants in Arunachal Pradesh, calling the Indian state its own. That's the level of delusion we are dealing with, one that's hard to cure. Just last week, India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Kazakhstan. The two agreed to intensify efforts to resolve issues along the LAC. Cut to the present. China is once again playing its broken record on Arunachal Pradesh. India, on its part, has been calling for peace for a while now. In April, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, and I'm quoting here, "It is my belief that we need to urgently address the prolonged situation on our borders so that the abnormality in our bilateral interactions can be put behind us," quote unquote. But does China even want peace? From Doklam and Galwan to its compulsive name game, Chinese actions hint at provocation, not peace. And the world understands Chinese design, its appetite for conflict. Take the United States, for example. It has been keeping a close eye on Chinese provocation and salami slicing of neighborhood land. Earlier this year, the U.S. State Department said, and I'm quoting here, "The U.S. recognizes Arunachal Pradesh as Indian territory, and we strongly oppose any unilateral attempts to advance territorial claims by incursions or encroachments, military or civilian, across the line of actual control," quote unquote. The world has been preparing for a Chinese escalation, perhaps not in the Himalayas, but in the seas, where China has conflicts with numerous countries, from Vietnam to Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Japan, to name just a few. Now, the last two countries I mentioned are US allies. Washington has time and again said that it is committed to defending its allies should a war break out. Earlier this month itself, Japan and the Philippines put aside the memories of the World War and signed a defense pact. They joined hands to fight China. The Reciprocal Access Agreement allows exchange of armed forces for training and joint military exercises between Tokyo and Manila, a very significant development. In April this year, Washington reaffirmed its ironclad commitment to defend the Philippines and Japan. The preparation for the worst has been part of the plan for a while now. What happens if a war breaks out? What happens if Chinese provocations trigger an exchange of fire? Does China stand a chance against US allies? Just look at the sheer size of the US Pacific Fleet. There are 200 ships, 1,500 aircraft, 150,000 personnel. The US has bases in Japan, South Korea, the Philippines. If and when a war breaks out, America will be pulling in troops from bases around the world. How many are there? The US has military presence in over 80 countries, and it has at least 750 bases around the world. What about China, you ask? It has some 3,304 total military aircraft. The US has 13,209. China has 1,207 fighter jets. The US has 1,854. China has 913 military choppers. The US has 5,737. What about attack helicopters? China has 281. The US has 1,000. Look at the naval power. China has a fleet strength of 730. The US has 472. China has 2 aircraft carriers. The US has 11. China has 3 helicarriers. The US has 9 submarines. China, what about submarines? China has 61. The US has 64. What about destroyers? China, 49. The US, 75. And we are not counting the land power or even the resources of US allies or NATO countries that are policy bound to defend the US. Now, let me ask you this. What do these numbers really tell you? That China is better off not provoking other countries or risking a war, because should America get pulled to a firefight with China, Beijing will be up for a thrashing defeat. And speaking of China, after India armed the Philippines with BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, Manila wants more. Reports say that Manila is planning to acquire 2 more batteries of the shore-based anti-ship BrahMos missile from India. Now that's a major boost for India's defense exports and also an affirmation of the BrahMos's abilities. Here's what we know. The Philippine Marine Corps is boosting its coastal defenses. With BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles that it received from India, the PMC is currently taking the delivery of 3 batteries of the missile. Each battery comprises 4 launchers, each housing 3 missiles with a staggering range of 290 kilometers. The missiles add significant increase in the Philippines' ability to deter and counter potential threats at sea, and the Philippines' commitment towards BrahMos extending beyond the current acquisition. They are already planning to procure 2 additional batteries by 2026. Reports suggest that the Philippine Army might also be considering procuring BrahMos missiles. If true, India would be arming the Philippines with the cruise missiles for both land as well as the sea. The BrahMos abilities are being touted as a game changer. It's high speed, long range, making it a potent weapon system, one that is capable of deterring and neutralizing maritime threats effectively. Not only does this solidify Manila's coastal defense capabilities, the fact that they want more BrahMos missiles from India, signifying how the 2 countries are tightening defense and strategic ties. The 2 countries have also ramped up defense cooperation amid concerns over an increasingly assertive China. Over the past year, tensions between the Philippines and China have only escalated. Meanwhile, efforts to resolve a 4-year-long military standoff between India and China along the disputed Himalayan border have made little headway. Just like it does with India, Beijing, citing so-called historical rights, continued to press its claims to areas inside Manila's exclusive economic zone. In this backdrop, the export of the BrahMos missile to the Philippines becomes all the more significant. Experts say that with the delivery of the BrahMos missile, India wants to be part of a larger pushback against China in the South China Sea. India is part of a broader coalition of countries, including the US, that is trying to build up the muscle and ensure the security of smaller countries like the Philippines. Like we mentioned, following the recent confrontations between the coast guards and other vessels of the two countries, tensions between the Philippines and China only ratcheted up. China, which claims almost the entire South China Sea, regularly sends its coast guard vessels to bully and harass smaller boats and ships. And that is where the BrahMos comes in. India has sent a deterrent to the Philippines in the shape of the cruise missiles. This gives Manila deterrent capabilities as well as credible defense. According to experts, this is important because the Philippines has limited military resources vis-a-vis China, and the missiles will help boost Manila exercise its sovereignty and sovereign rights in the West Philippine Sea against China's relentless pursuit of expansionist ambitions. And what's more, the fact that India is building defense cooperation with Manila signals that New Delhi is now moving beyond the Indian Ocean to contribute to maintaining stability in the entire Indo-Pacific region, and how those efforts have continued. Both countries, remember, have a deep interest in ensuring a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. For many years, India had been hesitant about exporting the BrahMos missiles, believing that advanced defense cooperation with countries like the Philippines, with which China has disputes, would unnecessarily rile Beijing. But New Delhi has reversed course, it seems. India has also been steadily building military ties with Vietnam, which is also in the midst of maritime disputes with China. Ultimately, if the reports are true, and if India does send more BrahMos missiles to Manila, it will be sending out a clear signal to the Chinese. Live and let live, or else. Are there bioweapons in Ukraine, or is this just a conspiracy theory being pushed by Russia? 2 years since the war erupted in Ukraine, there are no clear answers, only claims and counterclaims. But this week, the Russian Defense Ministry has released footage of what it claims is a makeshift Ukrainian laboratory used to produce substances that could become chemical weapons. Have a look at this video. Footage released by the Russian military purportedly shows a serviceman wearing a hazmat suit and a gas mask collecting samples from various pieces of equipment and containers. You can see him examining a glass jar containing what looks like a yellowish solid substance. A large piece of equipment that reportedly looks like a chemical reactor is also seen in the video. The Russian serviceman in the video is reportedly using a portable chemical analyzer. The clip then shows the samples collected arriving at a Russian military site. On Monday, Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, who leads Russia's chemical and biological defense forces, said that the facility was discovered near Avdiivka in Donetsk. Remember, the Russian forces seized the town from Ukraine's control in February after months of a bloody battle. According to the Russian general, traces of sulfuric acid and sodium cyanide, as well as cyanide anions, were found at the site. They are poisonous chemical compounds of the cyano group. Sulfuric acid and sodium cyanide used to produce hydrogen cyanide, a highly toxic agent that was used as a chemical weapon during World War I. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the laboratory was located in a partially destroyed building filled with debris. The Russians allegedly discovered a large number of empty containers inside the lab. In his briefing, the Russian general also stated that the Russian military has recorded at least 2 cases of the possible use of hydrogen cyanide by the Ukraine forces. According to Russian military, civilians in Avdiivka showed symptoms consistent with hydrogen cyanide poisoning. In May this year, there were claims that traces of this chemical were also found on ammunition fragments in Russia's Belgorod region. But the Russian allegations are not new. In 2022, in fact, Russia accused Ukraine of running a secret biological weapons program and having plans to obtain a nuclear weapon. What does Ukraine have to say about these allegations? Kiev denies having any weapons of mass destruction, and it has the backing of the US in this. In fact, the Russian claims have been called absurd. But Russia has also been accused of using chemical weapons on Ukraine. After years of Ukrainians sounding the alarm over Russia's alleged use of chemical weapons, the US Department of State this year substantiated the claims when it announced sanctions on the country's chemical and biological weapons programs. In May this year, the US charged Russia with using the chemical weapon called chloropistrin against Ukrainian forces. The US State Department said that this was in violation of the Chemical Weapons Convention. Chloropistrin, which the US says Russia used to dislodge Ukrainian forces, is an oily substance which was widely used during World War I. It causes irritation of the lungs, eyes and skin. It can cause vomiting, nausea, diarrhea. The use of this chemical in war is banned under the Chemical Weapons Convention, or CWC. It is listed as a choking agent by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, or OPCW. Ukraine says its troops have faced mounting chemical attacks. According to Reuters, Russian forces had used grenades loaded with CS and CN tear gases early this year in the battlefield. According to the report, at least 500 Ukrainian soldiers have been treated for exposure to toxic gases, and that one had died after suffocating on tear gas. Russia rejects these accusations, calling them baseless. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, told reporters in Moscow that Russia stood by its obligations under the CWC, which prohibits states from developing or acquiring new weapons. Some 193 states have ratified the convention. In fact, in 2017, the OPCW said Russia had destroyed the last of its Cold War-era stockpile of the weapons, as required under the CWC. But since 2017, Russia has been accused of at least 2 chemical attacks: the Salisbury attack on a former Soviet intelligence officer and the 2020 poisoning of the late Russian opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. These are allegations. The truth is unknown, but the longer the war continues, the longer the specter of chemical warfare looms. In the end, Russia or Ukraine using chemical weapons endangers more than just the countries at war. Broader support from around the world is required if we wish to protect against chemical weapons proliferation globally. Shifting focus for now to some breaking news coming in right this minute. In Dhaka, Bangladesh, Hindus have been attacked by a mob, as per the latest coming in. Hindus, remember, are a minority community there in the country. And we are being told that an enraged mob of fundamentalists, backed by a few fanatic groups and local leaders of Awami League, launched a violent attack on the Hindu residents. At least 60 people have reportedly been injured in the violent clashes. That's the latest coming in from Bangladesh, as there is growing concern over these attacks. The clash over the rehabilitation of Hindus in the news center, Hindus reportedly being attacked. And as per the latest coming in, the figure of those who have been injured reportedly standing at 60 as a result of the violent clashes. What we do know and understand at this point is that this unfolded after Hindus were attacked by a mob. The enraged mob, backed by a few fanatic groups, also reportedly local leaders of the Awami League, launched this attack on the Hindus. Tonight, we confront a stark reality in Israeli politics. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is a figure that has dominated the country's political landscape for years now and is facing a plethora of serious corruption charges, ranging from fraud, breach of trust, and bribery. In its ruling, the Jerusalem District Court has mandated Netanyahu to begin his testimony against such cases by the end of this year, despite attempts to delay this under the pretext of the ongoing war against Hamas. Our next report telling you more.
The Jerusalem District Court has ordered Netanyahu to begin his testimony on December 2, 2024. This decision comes despite Netanyahu's request to delay his testimony until March 2025, citing the ongoing war against Hamas. His defense attorney Amit Haddad argued that the conflict makes it nearly impossible to prepare the Prime Minister adequately. They claim that the ongoing tumultuous conditions hinder their ability to sit down, ask questions and receive feedback from Netanyahu. The judges acknowledge the challenges posed by the war but emphasize the public interest in advancing the case. They ruled that Netanyahu could reasonably prepare by the end of this year. The State Attorney's Office had earlier opposed Netanyahu's request for a delay, demanding his testimony start no later than November 1st. Netanyahu is embroiled in several cases: Case 1000, Case 2000 and Case 4000. Case 4000, often referred to as the Bezekwala case, involves allegations that Netanyahu made regulatory decisions benefiting Bezek, a telecommunications giant, to the tune of hundreds of millions of shekels. In return, he allegedly received favorable media coverage from the Wallah news site, which is owned by Bezek's major shareholder. Case 2000 is centered on accusations that Netanyahu sought positive media coverage from Yediot Aharonot, a leading Israeli newspaper, in exchange for curtailing its competitor Israel Hayom. In Case 1000, the charges revolve around Netanyahu allegedly accepting expensive gifts from billionaire benefactors, raising serious questions about conflict of interest and ethical breaches. So far, court proceedings have mainly involved the cross-examination of prosecution witnesses. This phase is expected to conclude soon, after which Netanyahu will face cross-examination as the main defendant for up to 2 months. This will be a pivotal moment in the trial, offering the public a rare glimpse into his defense strategy. The stakes couldn't be higher. Netanyahu's testimony will be scrutinized not just by the court, but by the Israeli public that's deeply divided over his leadership and these allegations. Regardless of the outcome, Netanyahu's leadership has long been polarizing, and his legal battles add yet another layer of division. As the nation watches closely, the court's firm stance against delay tactics is a reminder that accountability is not optional, even for the highest offices. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Shifting focus now to Pakistan, where begging is a big business with thriving exports. You heard that right. Pakistan is not only good at exporting terror, it is also good at exporting beggars. With its economy in a precarious position and as it deals with AQUOS, friendly countries and international institutions for financial help, begging has become an industry in the country. It not only has an organized begging business in big cities, it also exports beggars to other countries. According to reports, the Pakistani government has now decided to crack down on this, as it has brought about great shame to the country. Reports say that Islamabad has decided to block passports of more than 2,000 beggars for the next 7 years. In fact, Islamabad also plans to block passports of agents who sent beggars to foreign countries. The government says it is cracking down on the begging business because it has brought the country disrepute in other parts of the world. According to reports, beggars from Pakistan ply their trade mainly in countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, also Iraq. Last year, the Senate Standing Committee on Overseas Pakistanis was informed that a growing number of beggars from Pakistan were moving abroad, and this led to a spike in human trafficking. Pakistan's Overseas Ministry Secretary, Zulfikar Haider, reportedly informed the committee that 90% of beggars arrested in foreign countries are from Pakistan. He said that many beggars exploited pilgrim visas to travel to Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Iraq. But what's behind this, you ask? Why does Pakistan have an industry of begging? Ask experts, and they will give you a number of reasons. Lack of jobs, also inflation. In a country with over 230 million people, there are 38 million beggars. In Karachi, the average daily amount that a beggar collects is estimated to be 2,000 rupees. In Lahore, 1,400 rupees. Local media reports saying that the national average amount per beggar is 850 rupees. 850 rupees. Annually, beggars extract $42 billion, which is more than 12% of Pakistan's GDP. Let that sink in. The business of begging is as old as Pakistan's economic troubles. While the government in Islamabad had said that it has tried to abolish the practice, police action has not produced desired results. A beggar told Pakistani newspaper The Express Tribune, I'm quoting, "We will stop begging the moment our government stops begging from the IMF and other foreign countries," quote unquote. And that is where things stand in Pakistan today. Back to square one. Whether you are a night owl or an early bird, you may have heard the phrase, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise. What if we told you that the exact opposite might hold true and that maybe you were misguided all your life? Here's what we are talking about. A fascinating new study could have you rethinking your bedtime. So brace yourself, because you might find out that you are sharper than you think. Researchers at Imperial College London have made a rather intriguing discovery. Night owls, or those who are more active and alert in the evenings, actually perform better in cognitive tests as compared to their early bird counterparts. Yes, you heard that right. If you are the type who hits their stride as the moon rises, your brain might just be working at its best. So, does that mean you can stop the self-hate over being a night owl, if there is any, and perhaps embrace it instead? Let's tell you more about the study. It analyzed data from nearly 27,000 participants in the UK Biobank study examining their sleep patterns and cognitive abilities. People were categorized into 3 groups: morning types, evening types, and intermediates. And it turns out those who enjoy staying up late, classified as eveningness, showed superior cognitive function in areas like intelligence, reasoning, also reaction times and memory. In fact, one of the authors of the study from the Imperial College's Department of Surgery and Cancer emphasized that these findings highlight how our natural sleep tendencies can impact cognitive function. So it's not just about personal preference. Being a night owl might give you a cognitive edge maybe. But don't forget, getting the right amount of sleep is crucial as well. Whether you are a night owl or an early bird, aiming for that sweet spot of 7 to 9 hours of sleep is key for keeping your brain in top shape. The study also revealed some factors that can worsen cognitive performance. Increasing age and having conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes were all linked to poorer cognitive results, and this underscores the importance of managing health conditions alongside sleep habits to maintain optimal brain function. So what can we take away from all of this? If you are naturally inclined to stay up late, embrace it. Just make sure you are getting enough sleep. Managing sleep patterns proactively is crucial for boosting and also safeguarding your brain function. So if you find yourself thriving after dark, it might just be your brain working at its peak. Shifting focus for now, technical snags plaguing Boeing's Starliner capsule have resulted in 2 astronauts, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, getting stranded aboard the International Space Station. We've been telling you about this. The 2 astronauts, however, have expressed their confidence in the spacecraft's ability to bring them back home from the orbit. Our next report telling you more.
I have a real good feeling in my heart that the spacecraft will bring us home, no problem.
The first 2 astronauts to fly Boeing's Starliner capsule say they're confident it can bring them home. They've already been in space much longer than expected. Barry Butch Wilmore and Sunita Sunny Williams had their first news conference since docking to the International Space Station more than a month ago.
Absolutely confident.
I feel confident that if there was a problem with the International Space Station, we can get in our spacecraft and we can undock, talk to our team, and figure out the best way to come home.
The veteran NASA astronauts and former U.S. Navy test pilots are waiting for the company and the U.S. Space Agency to fix an array of thruster issues. They were launched aboard Starliner on June 5th from Florida and docked the next day at the ISS. They were supposed to spend about 8 days there. Now, their mission has been extended indefinitely due to a series of issues with Starliner's propulsion system.
You know, that mantra you've heard, failure is not an option. That's why we are staying here now.
It feels good to float around. It feels good to be in space and work up here with the International Space Station team. So, yeah, it's great to be up here. So I'm not complaining. Butch isn't complaining that we're here for a couple weeks, extra weeks. 5
of Starliner's 28 maneuvering thrusters went dead during its 24-hour trek to the station. A propellant valve failed to properly close, and there have been 5 leaks of helium, which is used to pressurize the thrusters. The current test mission is Boeing's final step before the spacecraft can clinch NASA certification for routine astronaut flights. That would make it the second U.S. orbital capsule alongside SpaceX's Crew Dragon. A NASA chief has said extra testing could last at least a couple of weeks before Starliner gets the green light to bring the astronauts back to Earth. NASA and Boeing have said it is capable of getting them home in the event of an emergency on the ISS. But the capsule is not approved to fly home under normal, non-emergency circumstances until its thruster issues are resolved, or at least better understood. NASA and Boeing officials have emphasized that the 2 astronauts are not stranded in space.
I want to now ask you a question. First, imagine this. You have a bottle or a jar that contains fuel. Would you use the same bottle to store cooking oil that will go into your food without washing it properly? Yes, the same bottle that had fuel in it. You obviously will not do that, right? But what if this was happening at a larger scale and you weren't even aware about it? What if the cooking oil you are using was being transported in fuel tankers without proper cleaning in between? Sounds scary, right? It would make you wonder if you should even use that oil sitting in your kitchen bottle, right? This is what's happening in China. A cooking oil contamination scandal has broken out. To put it simply, it revolves around this crucial question. Have fuel tankers been used to transport cooking oil after carrying toxic chemicals without being cleaned properly? The Chinese government will be investigating these allegations, and these are serious allegations. Let's break this down for you. According to state-run Beijing news, tankers used for transporting fuel were found to be carrying food products like cooking oil and syrup and were not decontaminated correctly. In recent days, this controversy has reportedly been the top trending topic on Chinese social media, and that says a lot about how angry and worried people are. On Weibo, in fact, there have been thousands of posts about this row, getting millions of views. One comment reportedly said, "Food safety is the most important issue." Of course it is. This is about basic food safety. This is about people's health. It's about their lives. There has been growing concern over potential food contamination. And what's worse, this is the latest in a series of controversies surrounding China's ability to enforce food safety standards. Yes, food safety has been a huge issue in the country for a long while now, and this scandal is not the first one. A series of high-profile scandals that have been reported by local media since the early 2000s. Do you know about the 2008 Sanlu milk scandal? Around 300,000 children got sick, at least 6 died, after drinking powdered milk contaminated with high levels of the industrial chemical melamine. Several executives found to be responsible were ultimately handed death sentences. A major issue in the early 2010s was regarding the sale and use of cooking oil recycled from the gutter, household drains, and grease traps. The Chinese President Xi Jinping himself has spoken about the importance of food safety. In fact, in a 2013 speech, the leader said the ruling Communist Party's ability to provide satisfactory assurances on food safety is a major test of governance capabilities. The latest row does not help the Chinese government. It is a huge blow. You have serious allegations being raised over cooking oil being transported in unwashed fuel tankers. In fact, the user even compared the latest row with the Sanlu scandal, calling it much worse. What really is happening in Xi Jinping's China? Not taking people's lives and their health seriously enough is a slippery slope, and China has been in a similar situation multiple times to know better. Moving on, we get you a unique story that's bound to tickle your funny bone. Politicians in Japan's Yamagata prefecture have introduced a new rule requiring citizens to laugh at least once a day. Why, you ask? Well, as they say, laughter is the best medicine. But what really triggered this move? How do the authorities even know if one is getting their daily dose of laughter or not? Our next report getting you the details.
It all started with a study from Yamagata University, which found that people who laugh more are less susceptible to heart attacks. So inspired by this research, Yamagata's assembly passed an ordinance to make sure everyone gets their daily dose of laughter. Let's explain what this is all about. The new rule says that citizens should deepen their understanding of the beneficial health effects of laughter and make an effort to laugh at least once a day. Businesses are even ordered to create a workplace environment filled with laughter. They also declared the 8th day of every month as a day of laughter with extra encouragement to chuckle. But not everyone is laughing it off. Critics argue that this is a serious overreach. Members from the Japan Communist Party said that whether to laugh or not is a fundamental human right. A professor from Kyushu University termed the decree as ridiculous, adding that there are indeed health benefits of laughter, but insists it shouldn't be enforced by law. So how do you check if someone is laughing or not? One of the sponsors of this new ordinance clarified that it's not mandatory and no one will be arrested for not laughing. It's simply about encouraging a healthier, happier lifestyle, not enforcing it. According to the study from Yamagata University we mentioned earlier, people who laugh more frequently had a lower risk of cardiovascular problems. The study involved over 17,000 people and found a strong link between frequent laughter and better heart health. Scientists cautioned that their findings are not definitive. They only counted laugh out loud moments, not silent laughs or smiles. Despite the debate, Yamagata isn't alone in this laughter crusade. Hokkaido has a day of laughter on August 8th because in Japanese, 8-8 sounds like ha-ha. Osaka has also introduced laughter programs. So there you have it. This is Japan's attempt to encourage people to laugh. It's a fascinating mix of health science, personal freedom, and, well, comedy. Will it work? Who knows? But in the meantime, maybe we could all use a good laugh. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Time now for Gravitas Recall. The day is July 11, and on this day, in the year 2006, a massive terror attack in India killed more than 180 people and injured hundreds. The terror attack unfolded in India's financial hub of Mumbai. 7 blasts were reported from different locations on the western line of the city's local trains within a span of minutes. The first bomb went off shortly after 6:20 p.m. in a train plying from Churchgate to Borivali. The bomb exploded when the train was between the Khar and Santa Cruz stations. Another bomb exploded at around the same time in a local train between Bandra and Khar. Subsequently, 5 more explosions were reported in different locations. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
are not going back to ECOWAS. We are better alone. Sahel military chiefs mark divorce from West African bloc ECOWAS, with the organization opening a parallel summit amid political turmoil in the region. Parents and civil society groups in Kenya sound the alarm over the rise in abduction of protesters following the anti-government protests that left more than 35 people dead. And Palestinian karate champion Mais El-Bostami hopes to accomplish her dream of representing her home Gaza in international competitions, starting with her new home, Egypt. Wild of Africa, at these times, on WION, Wild is One.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.
So, right now, we are with the volunteers from the Aleppo municipality. They are still trying to go to the rescue for the people they can find out.
India has emerged as a major diplomatic force at the world stage.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria continues to impact citizens from all walks of life.
The citizens of Gujarat witnessed a mega roadshow here in the city of Ahmedabad.
China is South Africa's largest trading partner for 134 years straight.
A domestic aircraft carrying 72 people on board crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injured have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
For WION, World is One.
Inside Out 2 crosses the $1 billion mark on the box office.
Make some noise!
We dive deep into the business of highest-grossing animated films. Find out which celebrities changed their names before entering the film industry. And know the unknown about Forrest Gump star Tom Hanks as he turns a year older. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times, only on WION E-Club.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 PM IST, 1 PM GMT.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to start again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Economic turmoil and global unrest have cast a shadow over President Joe Biden's approval ratings.
The rockets are continuing to be fired by Hamas in Gaza, although at a slower rate than previously.